Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. I wasn't expecting betrayal that morning. I wasn't even expecting change. I was just making scrambled eggs when Sierra leaned on the kitchen counter and smiled like everything was fine. And maybe that's what made the betrayal worse. Not the act itself, but the cruel performance leading up to it. My name is Noah Brennan, 34, project manager for an architecture firm in Denver. I've never been flashy, never had the dramatic love life, never even had a speeding ticket. I was the guy who planned everything, right down to proposing to Sierra on Christmas Eve under snowfall, with her family watching. For 2 years, we had built what I believed was the beginning of our forever. She was a personal trainer, energetic, vibrant, with eyes that pulled you in. People envied our connection. We were that couple. We shared toothbrushes, Spotify playlists, dreams of a home in the mountains, and even a vision board tacked to the fridge titled Our Life Together. But in hindsight, that board was a performance. Everything was. It started 3 weeks before our wedding. Subtle changes. Sierra grew distant. Late-night walks she never used to take. Her phone was suddenly glued to her like it was her second skin. She changed her passcode, started locking the bathroom door, even when showering. She laughed at texts that she wouldn't let me see, and when I asked her about it, she didn't reassure me. She snapped. "Why don't you trust me?" She said that first night. But it wasn't about trust. It was about instincts. A coldness had crept into her voice. A shift I couldn't explain. Then, on a quiet Friday night, I found her gym bag open. Her phone buzzed, and there it was, a series of explicit messages between her, someone named Cam. I remember the words exactly because they burned into my memory. "Last night was insane. I still taste you. Wish I could wake up next to you instead of this clown." This clown. Me. When I confronted her, I expected guilt. Maybe denial. Maybe even a meltdown. What I didn't expect was her laugh. "You actually looked," she said smugly, folding her arms. "That was the test, Noah. You failed." I stared at her, stunned. "What the hell are you talking about?" "A loyalty test," she said as if that explained everything. "I needed to know how much you trusted me. You clearly don't. And what about these messages?" I snapped, voice shaking. "That wasn't test. That was you sleeping with another man." She smiled cruelly. "If you had ignored them, I'd have known you were secure. But you looked. You don't deserve me." That was the moment everything in me shattered and hardened. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at her, that stranger in my kitchen, and said 5 words that made her flinch. "The wedding is off. Leave." She threw a tantrum, screamed, said I was insecure, then wept, then begged, then threw a ring on the floor and accused me of emotional abuse. She tried everything, but I'd already died inside. "You have 1 hour," I said quietly, before I called the police. She left, but the story didn't end there. It was just beginning, because Sierra wasn't done with me. And I had no idea just how far she was willing to go, or what kind of man I would have to become to end this war. Sierra didn't take no like a normal person. She took it like a personal attack. The day after she left, I blocked her number. The next day, she emailed me from a different address. "We're not done, Noah. You owe me a conversation. I gave you the best years of my life." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My hand was shaking too hard. I spent that night sleeping on the couch, replaying every moment. Every laugh, every kiss, every lie she must have told while texting Cam behind my back. The betrayal felt radioactive. I couldn't eat, couldn't work, couldn't breathe properly. Then the threats began. "You better call me, or I'll tell everyone what you did to me." Well, I did. Soon, mutual friends started reaching out. Sierra had spun the story. I had emotionally abused her. I spied on her constantly. She said I snooped, controlled, gaslit, broke her down. It was a textbook projection, but it worked. A few friends took her side. Others just went quiet, unsure what to believe. Then came a worse day. I got called into HR at work. My manager, Denise, closed the door softly and slid a printed email across the table. It was anonymous, but I didn't need a signature to know who sent it. "This employee is mentally unstable and potentially dangerous. His recent behavior at home raises concerns about his ability to manage projects effectively." Denise said, "Noah, I know you. I don't believe this, but I have to report it." That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the engagement ring still sitting on the bookshelf. The one she didn't bother taking. She was trying to ruin me. Publicly, professionally, emotionally. But instead of falling apart, something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to just survive this. I was going to make her wish she'd never met me. I started quietly. I contacted a lawyer friend, Melissa Jennings. She was sharp, brilliant, and didn't tolerate BS. Start recording everything, she said. Every text, every email, every sighting. We build a wall of proof, and if she tries anything, we'll bury her in court. I followed her advice. Security cameras? Installed within 48 hours. Phone? Backed up and synced with cloud storage. Property deed? In my name only, confirmed. Bank accounts? Frozen, then separated. 2 days later, Sierra showed up at my building. She stood in the parking lot like she owned it, arms crossed, sunglasses on, waiting. When I walked past her, she grabbed my arm. We need to talk. No, I said flatly, unlocking my car. You need to leave. This isn't over, she whispered, smiling like the devil. She was wrong. It was just beginning. Then came the fraud. I got a notification that a high-end mirrorless camera had been shipped to my old billing address, but to a different delivery spot. I never ordered it. 3 more items followed. Headphones, a smartwatch, a gaming console. I canceled my card immediately. Guess where they've been sent? Cam's apartment. Her gym buddy. The guy from the texts. I called Melissa. She grinned through the phone. Perfect. We got her now. She connected with a detective who specialized in digital fraud. And in a matter of days, we had a formal investigation opened. The purchases, the shipping address, the timestamps, it all pointed to Sierra. While she thought she was slowly unraveling my life, I was tightening a legal noose around hers. But I didn't stop there. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know everything. Where she went, who she saw, what lies she was telling. I wanted documentation so solid that no judge, cop, or idiot friend could side with her ever again. The PI was worth every penny. Sierra wasn't just cheating on me with Cam. She was cheating on Cam too. A third man. Someone from her spin class. Older. Wealthier. Married. The irony. She had the audacity to call me a liar. What followed next, I can only describe as transformation. I stopped grieving. I started rebuilding. Quietly. Strategically. I deleted old photos. Burned the vision board. Repainted my walls. Reclaimed my peace. I even reconnected with people who had gone silent, showing them the texts and recordings. Apologies poured in. She's unwell, they said. No, she was calculated. Because 1 week later, she sent a message that nearly made my blood freeze. Either take me back, or I'll tell everyone you hit me. You know they'll believe me first. I forwarded that message to Melissa. Do you want to file for a restraining order? She asked. I didn't hesitate. Yes. And so, while Sierra was playing dirty, I was preparing to demolish her entire house of lies. Because she thought I was weak. She forgot I build things for a living. And I was about to build a revenge that would leave her reputation in ashes. The day the court granted the temporary restraining order was the first night I actually slept through. But the quiet didn't last. 2 days later, Sierra was caught on my security cameras again. She stood on my porch around 3:12 a.m., hood pulled over her head, her phone's flashlight beaming through the windows as if she were looking for something. Or someone. I didn't move. I simply uploaded the footage and emailed it to Melissa. She's desperate, she said. That makes her dangerous, but also makes her sloppy. That's where we win. We filed for a contempt of court motion the next morning. But Sierra still didn't stop. That afternoon, she called my mother. She hadn't spoken to my family in months, not since she stormed out screaming about how Noah's a manipulative narcissist who won't let me breathe. But now, she told my mom I was suicidal, that I needed a wellness check. My phone started ringing nonstop. I reassured my family I was okay. But the truth? I was getting better, stronger, more focused, and I was about to become the most dangerous version of myself. Calm, calculating, and absolutely unforgiving. Let me back up for a second and explain something important. I wasn't always like this. I used to believe in mercy, forgiveness, talking it out. But Sierra taught me something about monsters. They don't stop when you cry. They stop when they bleed. And so, I decided I'd stop being the bleeding one. The private investigator I'd hired, Mark, came through again. He handed me a folder at a coffee shop downtown. Inside, photos, text threads, bank receipts, GPS data. Turns out Sierra had been siphoning money from her own employer. She was logging extra hours she never worked and manipulating client invoices. Mark had even gotten hold of emails she sent to clients, pretending to be her manager, then rerouting the payments through a dummy account. This wasn't just infidelity. This was criminal behavior. And best of all, her gym lover Cam had no idea. I asked Mark, "How sure are you about this?" He smiled. "It's airtight. And guess who's the emergency contact on her work file?" I blinked. "Me?" He nodded. "Want to drop the match, or should I?" I cracked my knuckles. "No, I want to watch it burn." I sent an anonymous tip to her company. I used a burner email. Attached the documents. The IP trail was clean. No way could be traced back to me. Within 3 days, Sierra was fired. She posted a tear-filled video to Instagram the same night. Some vague emotional rant about losing everything because of toxic masculinity. The comments section was a war zone. Some people coddled her. Others tore her apart. But none of it mattered. Because this wasn't about social media. This was about consequences. That same week, the credit card fraud investigation concluded. The authorities traced the purchases made in my name directly to Cam's apartment. Sierra denied it, of course. But the shipping address, camera footage, and payment timestamps were crystal clear. Cam flipped on her almost instantly. "I didn't know she used a stolen card," he shouted when the police interviewed him. He told them everything. How she had lied, said I was abusive, claimed the money was hers from shared account. The moment Cam realized she had tricked him too, he filed a police report himself. That was the domino I needed. Now, Sierra wasn't just facing restraining order violations. She was being hit with credit card fraud, defamation, harassment, false allegations, employment fraud, and soon identity theft. But still, it wasn't enough. She had hurt me too deeply. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about balance. So I reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Catherine, an ex. The one that came before Sierra. The one I'd almost married. We ended things peacefully, but the breakup had been tough. Sierra used to get strangely possessive when I talked about her. Catherine was now an HR executive at a top Denver firm. I sent her a single message. "Can we talk? I need advice. And maybe closure." She replied instantly. We met at a quiet Italian cafe outside the city. She listened. She read the emails. She saw the footage. And then she looked at me and said, "You want help destroying her completely?" "I want justice," I said. She leaned in. "Then let's build you back better and show the world who she really is." By the end of the month, Sierra was jobless, under investigation, blocked from contacting me, and suddenly, a target of her own ex-lover's anger. Cam's new girlfriend filed a restraining order too. After she discovered nudes Sierra sent him the night before their anniversary. The stories began spreading. Not because I told anyone, but because I didn't have to. She did it to herself, and I was just getting started. It was surreal watching her unravel. The woman who once controlled every room she walked into now had no control over anything. And still, she kept pushing. 2 weeks after being fired, she showed up at my apartment again. Despite the restraining order, despite the fraud charges, despite everything, security caught her before she even reached my door. She screamed to the front desk officer, "He ruined my life. He owes me. I want a second chance." The police showed up within 10 minutes. They escorted her out in cuffs. And I watched silently from my window as the woman who once smirked at me over candlelight was stuffed into a cruiser, her makeup streaked with desperation. It didn't feel good. It felt necessary. But here's where things took a turn. Sierra wasn't just self-destructing. She was becoming a public hazard. She began messaging my coworkers. From burner emails. From fake Instagram profiles. Pretending to be different people. "Did you know your colleague Noah is abusive?" Noah Brennan threatened my sister. "I'm scared of what he'll do." Melissa, my attorney, advised we escalate. We filed for a permanent restraining order. Not just against Sierra, but against anyone acting on her behalf. We also filed a civil suit for defamation, backed by a growing mountain of evidence. Screenshots, video clips, call logs, workplace harassment, and now police reports. It was airtight. And finally, the court agreed. A date was set. This was it. The final showdown. But before that day came, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived at my office, handwritten, no return address. It was from Sierra's mother. I paused for a long time before opening it. I nearly tossed it out. Inside it read, "I don't know what's wrong with her anymore. She lies to us too. We thought you were the problem. I was wrong." And taped to the inside, a flash drive. Against my better judgment, I plugged it in, after scanning it, of course. Inside was a single file, a voice memo, nearly 2 hours long. It was Sierra, recorded without her knowledge, talking to one of her friends. And it was devastating. She bragged about everything. How she only said Noah hit me because it worked last time on her ex. How she planned to trick him into marriage, then divorce for half. How she only dated Cam because she was bored. How she used her boss's account to funnel in a little extra money here and there to support her mental health breaks. The level of cold manipulation chilled me. I forwarded the recording to Melissa. "Are we allowed to use this?" I asked. "If we present it carefully," she replied. "We don't just win. We bury her." The courtroom was quiet. Too quiet. Sierra sat at the defendant's table, her hair pulled back, her eyes empty. No smirk this time. No false confidence. Just tension, regret, panic. Melissa spoke first. She laid out the entire case in devastating detail. Every violation, every lie, every piece of proof. Then she played the recording. The court reporter paused multiple times, jaw slack, fingers frozen on the keys. By the end of it, Sierra looked like she might faint. Then the judge leaned forward. "Miss Vaughn, I have never in my courtroom witnessed a more brazen attempt to manipulate, slander, and criminally harass another human being over what was, essentially, the end of a relationship. This isn't heartbreak. This is predation." He ruled in our favor. Immediately, Sierra was hit with a $42,000 judgment for damages, a permanent restraining order, a referral for mandatory psychiatric evaluation, a formal note in her public record that she attempted to weaponize false claims of abuse. But the worst punishment? Her name. It was ruined. Professionally, socially, publicly. She lost every contract, every friend who once believed her. Even her parents issued a public statement cutting ties. They had to, because they were being sued too, for covering up the identity theft. 1 month later, I received a final email. "You think you've won? You'll always be alone. No woman will ever look at you the same." I didn't reply. I just flagged it, forwarded it to Melissa, added it to the final case file. And then I walked into my kitchen, poured a glass of wine, and turned up the music. Not because I was celebrating her downfall, but because I had taken my life back, piece by piece. But the story isn't over just yet, because I still had one card left to play. And this one, it was personal. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice Sierra couldn't dodge, no matter how hard she tried. 6 months passed. The dust had settled, at least on the surface. Sierra disappeared from public view. No more posts. No more drama. But I knew her. That kind of darkness doesn't just disappear. It waits. So I waited too. In the meantime, I rebuilt my life, my peace, and my ability to trust again. I started running again, morning jogs with a golden retriever named Max that I adopted. I volunteered at a local shelter. I even reconnected with Catherine. It wasn't romantic, but it was healing. She reminded me of who I was before Sierra turned me into a weapon. And yet, part of me still felt unfinished. Because while Sierra had lost jobs, reputation, and legal battles, she hadn't truly felt what I had. Not yet. Not the loss of trust. Not the humiliation of being played. So when Mark, the private investigator, called me and said, "You're not going to believe who she's scamming now," I leaned forward. "Ooh, a foundation," he said. "A nonprofit that helps survivors of abuse. She got in as a case manager. Changed her name. But it's her." I froze. She had rebranded herself as a survivor, not a predator. She was mentoring actual victims, using their pain for clout, pretending to be the one who had escaped a toxic, controlling relationship. She was standing in the light and casting me as the shadow. That's when I knew. The final strike had to be public. I contacted Melissa. We spent a week compiling everything again. But this time, our audience wasn't the court. It was the public. We created a private web page, documented every court ruling, Every transcript, every police report, all backed by records. No accusations, just evidence. We titled it, "The Truth Behind Sierra Vaughn, a Pattern of Manipulation." We didn't spread it. We didn't share it. We didn't have to. We just sent the link to her new employer. 2 days later, her photo disappeared from their staff directory. A week later, she was featured on a local news segment. Her lies unraveling live as one of the women she mentored spoke up. She told me to accuse my husband of cheating just to see if he'd admit anything. When I didn't, she said I was weak. I stopped going after that. Something fell off. And then another woman came forward. Then another. Then Cam. He told his story on a podcast about how Sierra had lied to him, drained his bank account, and turned on him the second he said he couldn't help her financially. He ended the interview with something that stuck with me. You don't survive Sierra. You endure her. And then you escape. But the final blow? It came from her own words. The voice recording her mother had given me. The 2-hour confession? Melissa anonymously sent it to a journalist covering psychological abuse and false claims. The journalist did the rest. Published a full expose. The internet lit up. Sierra's name trended, for all the wrong reasons. She was interviewed for rebuttal, but refused. Her silence said everything. And in a cruel twist of irony, the very foundation she used to work for, Hope Bridge, issued a formal apology for hiring her. They publicly distanced themselves from her and partnered with a legal group that specialized in helping men falsely accused of abuse. Because of her, that was the final twist of the knife. I didn't smile when I read that. I just closed my laptop and breathed, because I didn't need her destruction to feel whole. I just needed the truth to win. And now it had. 1 year later, I'm in a better place, literally and emotionally. I moved to Boulder, bought a small house overlooking a ridge. It's peaceful. I met someone too. Her name is Delaney. She's a trauma therapist. Go figure. We met at a fundraiser. I told her my story. She didn't flinch. She understood it, understood me. And slowly, my heart began to open again. Sometimes, Sierra's name still pops up. A whisper here, a rumor there. But it no longer controls me. Because I'm not the man she broke. I'm the man who outlasted her. Who watched her lie crumble piece by piece. Who built his revenge like an architect. Slow, precise, and indestructible. She tried to ruin me with her lies. So I buried her with the truth. And walked away with my dignity and my future intact.